Distinguished members of Armadacon.
Get some new glasses.
Cheap seats are definitely occupied.
All right, distinguished members of Armadacon and box.
Yeah. Okay.
This panel is RPGs, serious or except for farce. Our experts in this field are Simon Burns, Johnny Nexus, James Steele, Gary Lovelace, Dr. Bob, and dragged in at the last moment, Simon Burley. The floor is yours.
Simon Burns will be played today by Sam Burns.
Thank you.
Who's playing Gary?
It's a good cosplay.
It's not the worst misspelling of my name I've ever had.
So,
What was the word?
Thumbs.
Thomas Burns.
If it's a curtain film.
R and N.
Yes.
Like they always say, some men want to, some men care about curling, others just want to watch the World Cup.
Put it away a little bit more.
Just to show we are experts, Sam, talk about yourself and specifically your gaming history.
Right. I started playing tabletop role-playing games about 15 years ago. I've been running them for about 12. I'm part of a D&D actual play podcast, and I have a number of games ongoing currently. Largely, I got into it as it being an extra way to scratch the acting itch, but the thing that really appealed to me about it was the unique type of collaborative storytelling it can create. You're a bunch of people who are all creating a story that is unique to you. And that was why I've continued on with it ever since.
Right, I'm Johnny Nexus. I started role playing, I think, about 1982 with Red Box D&D, and then moved on to Advanced D&D. Played a whole load of games, including Golden Heroes, through to about, as early noughties, whatever. Kind of dropped out then, lost groups and so on like that. Along the way, I did a webzine called Critical Miss, which was moderately successful back in the day.
I remember that was good.
Oh, thank you. Yes. Yes, it's been going downhill back on. I did one. I did a book for Mongoose, which is a parody. They used to Slayer's Guides. And I did a parody Slayer's Guide, which was Slayer's Guide to Games Masters, which achieved the distinction of a 1-star review on Endworld. I mean, but he did say, I guess your humour coarse and black. This will have you roll on the floor laughing, which is, well, they were supposed to be coarse black thing. So anyway, whatever. I had a column in Mongoose Publishing's magazine, a humour column for nearly 30 issues or something. Then I self-published a novel, Game Night, which is, it's 6 very dysfunctional Greek-style gods playing a role-playing game very badly to the mortal world below. It's a twin narrative split between the gods in their heaven and their poor mortals having a very strange existence. And then, as well, I then got back into role-playing 3 years ago. My marriage broke up, I thought I needed to meet people. So, yeah, so I've been playing some D&D mainly since then, because people I've been playing with for D&D.
I'm Dr. Bob. I'm known as Dr. Bob because when I first worked at the student Board Games and RPG Society of Bristol. I was the only woman, and therefore they named me Bob from Blackadder. Then I graduated and then became Dr. Bob. I've been gaming since the 1980s. I started GMing about 6 months after I discovered gaming, because I went, oh, I can do that. Oh, I can write stories back to this crappy scenario. Yeah, I've done all sorts of games, indie games, tried games. I don't think I like crunchy stuff, but I've got some military science fiction scenarios up on Drive-Thru RPG. I was doing this, and then the pandemic happened, killed my world. But Gary, you rescued me by driving me into an online game during the pandemic. So I was saying.
no, I'm saving Simon for the best.
Oh, you want
No. Well, everybody knows who I am. I've been gaming since the 80s. My first experience of gaming was GMing. Started with Tunnels and Trolls. The castle and the bear thingy. And I've been just. It's a phase I'm going through. I'll give it up one day.
But know that.
Yeah, that's when I started. And then somebody introduced me. I went into the local game shop, thank you John Orange, and he foisted this superhero role-playing game on me called Golden Heroes. Yeah, I can give it up anytime I like, just don't tell Kickstarter.
Right.
James, sorry.
I'm James Still, I'm on every panel
Yes, we get our money's worth.
today. Yes, it's reasonable enough. I, again, like a lot of people on this, have been gaming since the 1980s. I think it was probably about 1984 started out. So maybe after the coffee group, but it's not many. But unlike virtually everybody else on this panel, I do it on an entirely amateur basis. Never, yeah, I've never done anything for manual or online or anything like that. But I have done things like done a role-playing room of about 30 or 40 people, where it was giving people roles and then handing out bits of information and cards and things like that to people along the way. I remember doing that in about 1986. So I don't know whether that predates or postdates anybody else's experience with that sort of thing. But I was always interested, again, dragged into GM, always dragged into GM. I was always interested in the building of the worlds more than I was necessarily in the individual little bits and the nitty-gritty. And getting the plot right, rather than, you know, trying to make sure everybody had fun, but also trying to make sure that people were moving along in fun, which is always very important because we move towards something solid. However, I think I made steps back. D&D at first, then works for a while, then homebrew systems, and all sorts of stuff like that.
So our last person is probably the only person here who truly call it professional.
In 1984.
You still publish stuff. I have still bought all your stuff.
Okay.
You're still a published author, gaming
For the
author.
past to shut the whole thing down.
Yeah.
I'm still bloody upset.
Yes.
I'm Simon Burley. In 1982, I created and co-authored the first British superhero role-playing game. It was called
Golden Heroes.
and
How much fun did you have?
and it hit the shops 1 week after TSR's official Marvel superheroes game. So it's only been heard of occasionally in cult circles since. Since then I've self-published a load of games, and for my own mental health I go to an unconscionable number of conventions for the length and breadth of the UK and blog about them. Cool.
So,
Oh, 48 years role playing.
yeah, he still wins.
I can remember the first episode of Doctor Who.
So could I, but it was a repeat.
So,
Shallow use of this one.
Mr. Wakes tells us that the panel is about serious gaming, or do you just accept the farce that your players are going to turn your serious game into? Yeah,
Yeah, I have the too small to read
yeah.
program.
You plan for ages. It's going to be an epic campaign, and then your players just arse around. And so, what do we think? Is it worth bullying them into accepting your epic plots that you spend months preparing, or do you just go, yeah, it's just fart jokes?
But see, I'm thinking is, I'm usually the player who destroys your game.
Thank you.
Not the GM. So I mean, the one that comes to mind is the Star Trek game where I was made the captain, And at some point, I'm then writing that's when letter may be an email, I guess. Dear Mr. and Mrs. Rees, it is with profound sadness I have to inform you your son Ensign Rees was killed today in the service of the Federation. It may bring you some comfort to know that he did not suffer, as he was instantly vaporised by a Clipper disruptor pistol. I think that was the first session. And that's why I always say that if you invite me to participate in your Star Trek game, I will turn into Galaxy Quest. I just can't help it. Basically, it's in the gap.
Yeah.
The thing is, I mean, you said game, and Gary said campaign. Was it one game? Was it a campaign? Was it a short campaign? What was the situation? Because that's
well, no, are you asking what it was supposed to be or what it ended up as? See, I mean, I think it was supposed to be an open-ended campaign with the expectation it would continue. I'm not sure. To be fair, I'm not going to take 100% of the blame here. This was like 30 odd years ago or something.
Yeah.
So I can't remember exactly. This would be like probably Professor Star Trek system or something. But yes, I fear that possibly I may have had something wrong, but but.
So you did a one shot.
Yeah, well, I'm definitely on this side. Just talking about, I'm definitely on the side of I think you've got to pitch like the subgenres of what you want. So if you're going to say Star Wars, say now. There's many different ways you can do Star Wars. You could say, I want to do Andor. I want to do, not literally, but I want to have that sort of tone.
Yeah.
But you set yourself a very high bar. If you want really gritty people risking their lives. Whereas, if you say, I know I'm going to have like Delboy and Rodney in a beat-up space freighter, and their elderly robot that doesn't work very well, and they're trying to pay off their loan shark, whatever, or whatever people, I don't know if you swear, about getting distances and distance measurements and time measurements confused and so on. You've set yourself a much lower bar there because you can then, when the players do mess around and do jokes and stuff like that, it's kind of working with your chosen genre. 3PO and R2 bickering. That's the one. That's where you maybe want them to be serious robots, but actually it's the players bickering. Anyway, so that's my now my colours to Mars here. I think it's just accepting it's going to happen.
The problem with that is the fact that if you set it on what Del Boy sets it,
Yes.
then you're basically telling the players that they can expect a lot of humour from you, and you're basically giving yourself a GM and
You don't necessarily tell. No, you don't tell that. You tell them this is a smuggler's thing where you're playing a group of like you're playing a sort of like a space captain and his like assistants who are possibly on the wrong side of the law, attempts to make a living from a space freighter. So if they play it straight, it would work. You're not going to complain. But equally, it's not going to end up in disaster when they come up with some kind of really stupid like scheme to make money or something.
In my humble opinion, both of your examples are examples of doing it wrong. You're starting off with expectations of a campaign where it's going to be funny. Or you're starting off with the expectation of a campaign where it's going to be serious, which is far worse. Great thing about role-playing games is the emergent humour. I've never ever played a single role-playing game in 48 years where people haven't laughed and enjoyed themselves. This panel, I presume, is about going too far. If you're aiming for comedy, you want to lose it. If you're aiming to be super serious, you probably need to move to America because that's how they do their role-playing. We're in the country of Monty Python and the Carry-On films. That's going to sneak through with dad humour occasionally. So you set up a fairly...
Occasionally, every time.
That might blow. Yes.
You set up a fairly middle-of-the-road campaign, and then humour will emerge.
I think also with the games I've been in as a player, as opposed to as a GM, where it becomes defensive humour, because we've got one GM who adores Warhammer 40k and has inflicted a couple of campaigns on us. And we spent quite a lot of time in like the Dark Heresy going, Hans, are we the baddies? I can't remember, but we spent more time working out how to turn one of the Warhammer 40k tanks into a barbecue than we did, you know, oh, the engine gets really hot, let's put the steaks on the outside of it, than we did paying any attention to the plot, because it's all relentlessly grim, and we are the, you know, we're going, I don't want to play a space Nazi, oh, let's just arse about. Yes, so sometimes it's defensive humour, because, yeah.
I was going to say, well, the thing with 40k, especially as a setting, is it's very iconic and recognisable in the sort of in a role-playing game arena, but because it is so iconic, it is ripe for parody as well. In the same way as there's been 1,000,001 different parodies of Star Wars. There's been a lot of parodies of Warhammer, specifically because it's, even though I don't think even the people who wrote it initially took it that seriously, if you do, it makes it ripe for parody. And yeah, that's something actually in terms of having the, not just the plot, but the tone of a campaign get away from you. Like you were saying, if you're setting out to be uber serious, there is always a good-natured pushback against that you will have at some point from someone, because ultimately you're all a bunch of people sat around the table trying to tell a story together and have fun.
If ever in 40k you've got a GM that's taking it a bit too seriously, push back and ask for an orc as a companion.
Yeah.
Because suddenly that will reset their brain. Because having played some games in 40k Universe, the orcs are the comic relief. They are the completely ludicrous, over the top, stupid race.
They work on Looney Tunes logic.
Yes.
Yeah.
And it works in Universe.
Yeah.
So yeah, if you ever find that it is getting too much in 40k, make it orc.
You want to put your 2 pence in?
I was just so entertained by listening to everybody else.
You can sit up there if you want. So.
Well, it's interesting the way that, yes, you can't start out with a serious campaign, don't expect it to be subversive. If you do set out with a serious campaign, then people are going to rebel. Because you've got to always take in your audience.
Yeah.
Your audience, your players are your audience.
Yeah.
As a GM, your players are your audience. And if they have a particular idea about how they regard this particular game, or even role-playing in general, then there is no way you're going to get around that. If somebody is coming in because they want to get away from themselves for a couple of hours and have a bit of a laugh, doesn't matter if you're playing Call of Cthulhu, you can be, yes, you can be neck deep. You can be neck deep in the old ones or whatever,
yeah.
And it's just, they will find some way to make it rather silly.
Yeah. I have yet to play at a table that has had any mention of tentacles of any kind.
Without said the word.
Yeah, you all know it. You all know what's coming.
Especially
the hentai jokes abound.
Yes. Anybody who's watched early Japanese anime, yes, no, it's over.
Yeah.
Yeah,
the official the original Stargate RPG, which was a D20 back about the 3rd edition, it's got a skill called innuendo. Because that doesn't mean the same to Americans as it does to Britons. So we just refer to it as the Mrs. skill.
All who are misses.
It wasn't like double entendre. What was it actually?
It means it doesn't have the sexual innuendo. It's basically Americans distinguish between innuendo, you're kind of implying something you don't really mean, and sexual innuendo, whereas to Brits, innuendo just means double entendres.
Also, they're using an entirely different word for sarcasm.
Yeah.
It's
Well,
not
they
so
don't
much
have-
sarcasm as hidden, it can mean hidden meaning. meanings that, you know, I can say.
What was it right?
Have you got the thing? And
Yeah.
you know that means it's Gary's birthday present.
Like,
Yeah.
like a superset which dog whistling would be an unpleasant part. It's the
Yes,
ability
yeah,
to say
yeah.
one thing that other people
It
won't
was-
understand, but send a secret
It
message
was
to your
specialist, yeah,
colleagues.
it was
Right.
you could say, you know, now have you got the thing?
Yeah.
And the party knows that means
Yes.
Yeah.
whatever, but then, yeah.
Yeah.
But yeah, we just referred to, yeah, it's an innuendo.
I
Yeah.
have known some people who can't get beyond single on
Yeah.
So Simon, you were going to say.
No, I'm just struck by what Dr. Bob was saying, being stuck in the campaign, which was relentlessly grim, and they were pushing back. We are just too bloody British in this country. Too polite. And we did.
Oh.
There goes the camera. Never mind.
Yeah.
It wasn't filming us.
We're being passive aggressive instead of saying, can you just play something else?
I've actually been, the panel, I can see are all forever GMs.
Exactly. Yeah.
But I am the eternal player. So I've been in campaigns where I have been both.
Yeah.
Somebody who makes the double entendres, somebody who listens to the GM's exposition of what one of the other players wants to do, and then makes a fart joke about it because it just appeared in my head. And I've also been the person who's been absolutely just scandalised by somebody not taking something seriously when I wanted to take something seriously. And I think the important thing is that people are everything. You know, you don't just get serious players, you don't just get silly players, you get people who take certain things seriously, people who take other things not so seriously.
I think, so to get back to Simon, I think there's also an age thing, because I am pushing back a lot more now, I'm old and grey, about games where you kill people and you take their stuff. And I go, for fuck's sake, can we please play something where the intent of the game is not to murder people? And also a lot of games, like we've got a GM running Star Wars at the moment, and he kind of blinks and looks slightly surprised when we don't give a stuff about looting the bodies, because we've killed those gods or whatever, not because we wanted their pocket change and their blaster rifle, it was because they were trying to kill us and we killed them back. And also we're going, shit, if we kill this guy, the cops will be after us forever. We don't want that. We'll just stun them and then phone the police and say, this guy mugged us in an alleyway, he's come and collect his unconscious body. And the judge's going, but you should be murdering these people and taking their stuff.
Congratulations, you have now killed this person. I do have limbs.
Yes.
Because we space birds are hobos.
Yes, yeah.
Referees who there's a crashed shuttle and they make you go and investigate every single little room and describe it in detail as if it's a dungeon.
Yeah.
Yeah.
There's a term I kind of coined for the kind of GM that goes into super extensive detail about like the world building of a world, the setting. Sometimes I'll even have like notes for the players as to what the tone should be, and I tend to call them the train set version, because it's like, okay, you've got this massive, amazing, intricate world, but you have to play with it exactly how I want you to.
On the other ground, create
Yeah.
a massive intricate world, and then just let people run. Because at the end of the day, I'm providing the setting as a GM.
Yeah.
The actual story is up to the players.
Yeah.
And I've been running a Grimdark campaign for the last couple of years. And yet, when you actually look at the individual scenes, they're all complete farces. But the overall story is still, when you actually just break it down to what they've done and what they've been involved in, is still really bloody grimdark. It's just the individual bits for it have been incredibly silly.
As a player in Alistair's game, I'd just like to add to that, haven't we had the silliest things happen in the grimmest campaign and the grimmest things happen in the silliest campaign?
Pretty much, yes.
Is the way, yeah.
One other way which perhaps you can end up with farcical situations is it's the gap between the story and the fact you're playing a game. So as the GM, it's like the equivalent of breaking the fourth wall in a pantomime. So as a GM, you don't break the fourth novel. You want to do it as if it could have been a fantasy novel or a science fiction novel or whatever, and you want to be within the story. But the players are very much, they're playing a game. So they can often make jokes about, well, they know their characters aren't, they don't actually, it's not devastating the characters die. Yeah, especially if it's like a one-shot or something. So they're not going to act as if death is the worst thing possible. They will take stupid risks, because why not? Or they'll do things like my friend Gav Hanneman, who writes fantasy novels. He posted a thing on RPGNet once, years ago, trying to figure out how to get out. And this was the players taking advantage of the fact that it's his campaign. He's the one that cares if it continues or not them. Yeah, so he can't have a TPK. He's got to sort it out. So they've been on some spaceship, and they owned an armoured, like an armoured fire truck that was airtight, so it could go into like smoky out environments. And it ended up in the bad guy's spaceship somehow. And they destroyed the bad guy's spaceship. I thought it was hilarious. Destroyed the bad guy's spaceship, and then fire the cannons on an armed fire truck on the flight deck, blow the doors apart, and then just drive it off the deck into space. And so they left a session with it tumbling in orbit in an armoured fire truck, airtight fire truck. Because their actions, well, you've got to figure out how to get us out of this situation. And he was posted on RPGNet as like, how could he think of a way to get them out of the situation they got into, but in a way where there was still some kind of appropriate punishment. And I think, because, was it Slay Industries? I think the best suggestion was they get discovered by some TV company who then turn them into a reality TV show. They don't actually rescue them, but they keep them alive, trapped on the armoured fire truck. But that's an example of the players. It's all laughs there. It's not their campaign. The GM generally, I think often the GM is more invested in the campaign than the players are, which sounds a bit sociopathic, but it's the GM's baby.
That can go the wrong way. I remember once, 20 years ago, I was at a convention and we were playing this game, and it was very Lord of the Rings. And we all tried to get into that stupid door that was like, speak friend and enter, but of course it was not that. But for over an hour, because we are all nice people, we played along and tried to find ways to open the door from the simple, just see if it's open to whatever we could imagine. And then we finally gave up and sat around and, had something to eat, tails around the campfire with GM. Because really he was about to explode. But he didn't give us any chance to get in there. 5 people couldn't get in that thing, so what was he expecting?
Players
so
and
it's GM just thought,
Genuinely, one of the things I have employed multiple times is the door with 3 handles. For those of you who don't know, if you're a GM and you need an extra between 10 minutes and 3 hours to write the next bit, present your party with a door with 3 handles. The way that the door with 3 handles works is you have to pull all 3 handles at the same time. But conversely, the more experienced your role players are, they're never going to think it's that simple. They will find a way to overcomplicate it. They will go, okay, we've got to do this in sequence. Or we've got to, no, it's not even a door, it's a mimic. It's definitely a fucking mimic. We're not going anywhere near that. Okay, no, the thing has to be the top one, then the bottom one, but not the middle one. They will create the content. You couldn't have written that. And that's actually a thing to move on to in terms of when you're a GM and you create a world, you're creating part of the game, but your players are creating the rest of it.
Yes.
And that's the thing that you do have to kind of work in concert with, otherwise you're always going to be like butting up against each other in terms of what your vision for the game is and what theirs is.
Yeah, my friend Philip was in a regular game, farce game campaign, and one time he said, "Oh, how did the game go?" The night, and she said, "We spent the entire session arguing about whose turn it was to wash the dishes." And she said it was absolutely fabulous. Everyone was in character, pointing fingers and accusing people, and I couldn't wash the dishes, I was saving so-and-so's life, and such and such. And she said they achieved nothing, but everyone had a terrific time.
But as a GM, I've been in situations like that, and you just go, that's my best night. Because I did nothing, they did everything. I've had occasionally, I remember I was
One
doing...
of the GM's NPCs was,
Yeah.
was deep in the arguing about the dishes.
But
yeah.
he was role-playing himself rather than GMing.
Yeah.
I did a Buffy, and I had a session, it was quite a deep, intense one. It was one of those few where they really got into it, and it was just two of the characters talking. And I just sat there, I am enjoying this because I'm doing nothing. They are doing everything. I just wanted to say, hands up those of you who are GMs. Yeah. You tried. Yeah. Well, I know your hand goes up more than anybody else's. But do you find the same sort of situations as you try? Yeah.
One of our friends was a nice one to try and keep characters on course. The first time we ever came across it, you go down a road and you find a preserved red fish.
My brother was a magical item, which is a piece of string with a little silver arrow about that long dangling on the end of it, and you hold it up, and it's a plot compass. It points you towards where the plot is.
I was just thinking about your free-handed door thing.
Yeah.
Which is one of the things I have employed in the past, which is you give them a puzzle, and as soon as they come up with an answer, not the answer you had,
That's the answer.
any plausible answer, and try it, then they get through. And you say, oh, congratulations, you worked this out.
The first successful critical miss article was GMing with nothing.
Yeah.
And it was a guide to how to get through a session when you just forgot that you've got to prepare. And I think the enigmatic puzzle was step 3, which was you wait until...
Mr. Wade.
I just want to come back to your point about players just doing it themselves. We used to run these games with 30 odd people in them at university. And I had one experience where I was GMing something. And these two guys came over and said, we actually do need a GM for this bit. Okay, fair enough. Went over to the corner where they'd been doing whatever they'd been doing. And they were on top of a warehouse. And I was like, how do they get on top of a warehouse in this scenario? Anyway, that's where they were. And one of them wanted to jump from one warehouse to the next warehouse roof. And I said, well, what are you going to do? Go for it? He said, yes, I will. I said, did you make it? And he went, no, I fell to my death. And I said, well, carry on. But they'd been playing pretty much the whole evening without even a GM. I've no idea what they were doing.
One question. We've accepted that pretty much it's going to go, whether we want to, it's going to go Galaxy Quest. We should, as GMs, we should just, well, not necessarily, but it's the natural inclination is because we're British. It's going to get comedy. And to be fair, I don't know about you guys, but when I do regular gaming, I probably spend about half of the session actually gaming and half of it just having fun, talking. It's an excuse in reality for us to get together with our friends. Because we're British, we need an excuse. But at some point, you've got your plot, and they go off. How do you start reading them back in when they go off completely and you go, right, I'm not enjoying this anymore.
No.
They are trashy. Go on, Simon, you're an expert.
Got a number of solutions. Because it shouldn't reach that stage.
No, but
I'll give you the young people come up with first. Then I'll give you my input. There's something called session 0.
Yeah.
Yes. When you all get together and you all have a chat about what you're going to do in the campaign. And you all agree and you set lines and you do that. And that should avoid a lot of what we're talking about. Yeah. I've even got their acronym which they use for that. However, I find session 0, you can talk about stuff and nobody knows what they're talking about. So I tend to use what's called, I started with session -1, but I call it prologue. You sit people around the table. You want to run your grim dark Warhammer 40,000 campaign. You're sitting down, you run a grim dark Warhammer 40,000 one-off with pre-gens. Starter kits are great for that. And then the following week, you have a conversation. And you have to be prepared as a referee for everyone to say, well, that was bloody awful. Can we have another campaign, please? And that has to be on the table.
Yeah.
But if they don't say that, then you've got something to talk about. What happened that you enjoyed? Did you enjoy your character? What happened that you didn't enjoy? What are the things you want me to avoid? And then when you start making your forever characters for the campaign, you actually know the rules. Because you sit down to most games to make a character for the campaign, you don't know how the rules work. And half the time you make characters really rubbish that you get making later on. So, you get a starter set. Run a week of that, call it prologue. Have a session 0, chat about it, and then start the campaign.
Yeah, to that point actually, I would say that in my experience, the way that you get players to not goof off, if that's not a thing that you want them to do, is to make sure that they are, however you do this, and there's no one correct way of doing it, but however you do this, you've got to make them invested in the story that you're telling.
Yeah.
Whether or not that's because their characters are involved with it, because ideally the story you're telling links back to the motivations of all of those characters, which you can decide and you can flesh out in your campaign 0 or session 0 if you want. But yeah, I found in some of the games that I've run where there's at the very least in character, there's not that much humour. The thing that keeps people keeping tonally consistent is because they're invested in the story that you're all telling. And that's not to say that goofing off is bad, at all. We all do it. And sometimes that's to be actively encouraged. But mainly, the reason why people continue with a particular story that is ongoing is because they are invested in it. And they've got invested in it because it's a story they have stakes in.
I've got two comments on that. One kind of slightly silly and one serious. So the slightly silly one is, I think we've forgotten something, because we've talked about players, we've talked about GMs, and we've talked about sessions here, and we've talked about campaigns. We've forgotten to mention dice.
Yeah.
Dice can take any deeply serious situation and turn it into a farce.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah. You know, like David's, bloke falls off warehouse, kind of. There will be a rousing yay from half the rest of it. I can't even remember the system. There was a hit-location table, and groin was one of the options.
Yeah.
And whenever that was rolled, sort of some of the blokes would wince in sympathy, and all the women went yay.
If Luke had rolled a 1 on the Death Star trench run and crashed his X-wing into the side of the trench and died, it'd been a fairly different film.
Yeah.
A couple of weeks ago, at a convention, I played in a classic pilot game that someone had got their hands on off eBay, with all the critical hit tables, and one critical hit came up about a splinter going into someone's shoulder, ripping their coat, killing parrots if present.
Twilight 2000, which is a very gritty sort of system, it had a thing where, if you get hit, if you're in an armoured vehicle, any kind of vehicle, and you get hit, first the vehicle takes the damage on that side, and then whatever damage is left gets transmitted to the crew. But it's then in the order where the crew are sitting. And instantly I explained that to someone who's the driver. His instant response was, I'm designating the dog as the co-driver. So the gritty system is itself then crazy.
My combat system is dodgy combat in one of my games, where when your ship gets hit, you can distribute the damage in amongst the crew in whatever way you want.
Yeah.
And I explained that's why C-3PO fell in the pit.
Yeah. I like it.
Have you ever heard of the original RuneQuest critical fail table? It was actually based on the Society of Creative Anachronisms proper tournament rules. And as I played that basically tournament rules, I can say that every single one of those critical fails happened in real life.
Having been involved in reenactment programs, I'm not as a fighter, but watched it. It's interesting that you notice that the leg hits in a hit location are bigger than you'd expect, because that's where hits happen.
Yes.
Because it's harder to defend against a leg hit.
Yeah.
So you tend to go for leg shots.
Yes.
So do they always fall down? I'm just thinking of a game
Mine.
called Earth Dawn where there were a lot of bits on legs,
Yeah.
but it always involved people falling over.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I was going to say, one point I was going to make is that, in terms of you as a GM, not wanting the players to sort of like go goof off, whatever. There's the element, you've got to remember, there's things as the GM you can do which in a sense are farcical, but not in a ha-ha way, but are still farcical. So if you don't want the players, I mean, this is going back to your point of the give them a reason to do things. It's you don't want them to breach the fourth wall. But if you ever do the bit where it's basically it's kind of, you know, the metaphorical paths diverge, and you're basically saying to them, go down the left one, go down the left one, because that's what I prepared. And you're saying, you know, there's a path that looks like it's full of like very difficult, very rocky, and then a simple tarmac path. They say, oh, we'll go down the tarmac path. It's like, you don't want to go down the rocky path, because that's the session you prepared. If you basically bully them into going down the rocky path, because that's the session you prepared, that is farcical. It's farcical when you take. We've had things where we've ended up, we've been so railroad stuff. It was the one where, oh, we found the asteroid ship in Travel. We found the asteroid ship. We were our engine blew up, so we had to get jobs. So we were like, oh, well, here's one. I can work as a starship. I can work as a programmer for 3 months. You can work as whatever. And it's like, don't you want to take the one that says earn big money, no experience required, vac-suit supplies? It's like, no. But we were willing to take that one. Then, of course, we go off to this mining thing, and well, we go to this room, and gas starts pouring in. We're like, oh, what a surprise! This turned out to be a scam. And at that point, well, you as the GM have destroyed you've destroyed your game by choosing the farcical thing of bullying them into going for the obvious scam.
Yeah, and
Yeah.
it's the Stargate, a long-running Stargate game. It was co-GM, there was several people to GM, but Prue, who's normally a brilliant GM, when she hasn't had time to prepare, she does a thing where you go to a planet and some local villagers will invite you to a feast. And you know if you eat anything, you are going to fall unconscious and wake up in dungeons and go owl for And it got ridiculous that, you know, we go, no, we eat rations. It had happened too many times, and we were just being resistant to it because we're going, no. And the annoying thing is, you wake up in a dungeon and all your gear has been taken away from you. But it's really easy to break out, and all the gear that's covered, that's just down the corridor. So you get it all back again, and then you storm to the throne room of the Goa'uld that's done this and shoot him. So it's why does he bother? I was going to, because I had a second point about the thing we're talking about. Hello, menopause.
Roll innuendo.
Roll innuendo, yeah. Which is, I've been, as a player, in times where character stuff is happening, it's getting very intense. And I feel myself doing what I do sometimes in real life, which is, I should be going through the scenery, angst, and I don't, I shut down and I make a joke. Because that's how I diffuse the situation in real life. Going, yes, I could be bursting into tears because my character's favourite.
But what you say
It's about the character.
Yeah,
that's literally Stargate. No, Stargate TPC.
Oh yes,
Yeah.
but it was just, the first time Prue did it, it was awesome.
Yeah.
The 6th time Prue did it, it was
Oh,
God,
I was talking about you making
Yeah.
a joke in it.
Yeah, yes, yeah.
That's-
But yeah, so that's, it's a kind of, it's partly being British and going, no, I'm not going, and partly going, I'm not actually an actor, I'm not sure I can do justice to this scene. It's all just a crack joke instead.
Well,
Yeah.
It's an intriguing one. We've mentioned, or you've mentioned Britishness twice into part of the conversation now. And I
we
think
need Barry and Elisa to chip in.
well, no, it's
Yeah.
more a case of you read these articles occasionally about what it's like for American forces or Australian forces or something to be in a war situation with British army, and it is very much a case that we've got a dark sense of humour that will pop up at the most inappropriate time.
Oh, God, yeah.
It is just
I do remember that business
Gallows
of
humour.
that business of the Americans calling the caves in Afghanistan something like it, the citadel of evil, and the British calling it Tora Bora Competency.
Are we actually just fighting what we really
Yeah.
are?
I think the 7-Eleven bombing attack, I heard about them on the news, and me, and then I had discovered 2 of my other friends, the first thing they thought on hearing the headlines was, boy, are the French sore losers. Because this is not appropriate, but it is very British.
I'm listening to everybody speaking. The more grim a situation is in real life and in role play, the more chance there is of somebody cracking a joke, because it's a tension within
It's our cooking.
Especially for the British.
I'm not sure it's entirely limited.
We are about to run out of time.
No, I've got a question.
Oh, go on.
Okay.
Are we not simply talking about stories having light and dark in them?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, and stories should have both.
Yeah.
I mean, you can play it the other way. You can have a very light party situation, and then one of the characters dies.
Yeah.
Yes.
I mean, one of the ways of solving this, which occurred to me and it's really clever, was I signed up for a convention game called Dad's Army versus Cthulhu. And the Warmington-on-Sea platoon were given the job of transporting some wounded American soldiers from the hospital to the airbase. The first half hour, he let us get in Jones's van and do a whole pantomime of just trying to get Jones's van to the hospital. And it was absolute farce and pantomime. When we hit the hospital and we saw the wounded American soldiers, he literally described World War II injuries in massive detail and kicked us in the gut. So you can do it in the gut.
Yeah.
I find there's like I'd run Doctor Who as a campaign, a unit game. And Doctor Who isn't desperately serious. I know there are serious episodes, but mostly it's light-hearted and fun. And then my players dialed the the thing up to 11, but just they went back in time and found the Scarrison from the Loch Ness Monster thing, and brought it home with them and kept it in the unit swimming pool. And they bought it an honorary degree online so that it could sign off on the health and safety of Tom's mad professor's experiments, because they needed a second signature from a scientific advisor, so they bought the Loch Ness Monster, made the signature. They the Cybermen, the modern ones have a gun built into their arm. So they killed some Cybermen and they took an arm back with them to unit base. And then they carted it around and they referred to it as the hand friendship. As in, they were using their innuendo skill to go, shall we offer these aliens the hand of friendship? So, meaning shoot them, but also it was often to be found in interesting poses. And it sort of, we took something that was silly and just, made it into a complete farce.
I think it's time to wrap up, so one last comment from each of our guests. So should we start with James?
I'm not quite sure what I should do at this point.
Roll the dice.
Well, farce will get into your campaign. Farce will, it's a question of what you do about it, whether you do just roll with it, whether you take it and see if you can actually develop something within the plot from that farce, which is quite often a way of dragging people back in. Because if you can take that element of stupidity and ludicrousness and develop it into something that they care about and need to, or even in the worst cases, you take the element of stupidity and farce and you show them the actual consequences of it.
Yeah.
That can be devastating and can bring things back quite seriously.
Simon?
If you want to see anything we discussed today demonstrated, I've only got one sign up for my steampunk game. One of our dinosaurs is missing. It's time to start at 6 o'clock apparently, but we're all eating tea then. So we'll run a 1 hour prologue between 6 and 7, and anyone that turns up to 7 who isn't going to the grand ball, masquerade, whatever, you're welcome into the gaming room and see these things in action. And you will laugh.
Guaranteed. I've played many of these games.
I think any game where I, as a GM, spend half my time kind of collapsed over the desk, helpless with laughter, is a good evening's entertainment, even if they went nowhere near the plot. Yeah.
I think, well, first, I mean, I just say Simon's advice about that. I think the session 0 and the program is excellent. So, for actual sensible advice, that's what he said. But yeah, again, I think Jamie just accept, don't get so invested in the game that it can't, that the farce is going to destroy it for you. Just remember that in real life. Was it Duke of Wellington? Was it on Waterloo when the bloke got his aides or something, his leg shot off by a French cannonball? And the Duke of Wellington said something like, by God, sir, they've shot your leg off. And said, by God, sir, so they have. Now, if that happened in a sort of post role-playing game, you'd say, you might argue, look, that's stupid farce. But no, it's just, it's life. Yes.
One of the things I would say, regardless of whether you're a GM or a player, is irrespective of how much planning you've done before you start, always be open to the fact that the game can change, and that's not necessarily a bad thing. And it can change in ways that you didn't expect, but it will change for the better. And sort of speaking to your 2 points, if you are having fun, you are doing it right. It doesn't matter what else is going on.
That was going to be my final point, was whether it gets farcical, Galaxy Quest or Star Trek, if everybody's enjoying it.
As long as the GM isn't actually crying.
Yes.
Yes.
But what I'm saying is, if everybody, the GM, the players, if everybody's having a great time, it doesn't matter. And just one last thing. The best way to wind up an engineer, by the way, is to shoot the ceiling and shoot the ship.
Yeah.
Bastard!
No, thank you very much. Thank you to the panel. Thank you for everybody. Again, if you want to have a play of the games in there, Simon, I will recommend. I've played many of his games. I've bought pretty much all of them and have so much fun with them. The comedy always comes out. I don't think I've ever played a serious one of the game, apart from more new rounds.
Have I ever written a game before that has the comedy written in?
No.
They emerge, thank you.
It does emerge exactly as he said. So thank you very much. I think, James, you're on the next panel again.
I'm still here.
Yeah.
You're on beat.
Try to be.
Shade into the desk.
Yeah, we have. Okay, thank you very much.